So now it's time to learn how to return an HTML code. We already know how to return text here in the front end, but this is not useful. This is usually not useful. If you want to create a web application or website, of course you need to return HTML. So how can you return HTML in Django? Well, the first step is that you need to create a folder that's going to hold all of your HTML files. So where should you create that file? Well, in order to create that file, you need to create it in the specific app that you want to work on. So now we are working on the blog. So here in the blog, we need to create a new file here, new folder, and then you need to name it templates. And then inside that templates, you need to create a new folder. You need here to say new folder, and then you need to give it the same name as the app. So the name of the app was blog. So here you need to say blog. So what you are going to have now is that you are going to have templates and then / blog. So inside that blog now we can create our first HTML file. So here I'm going to right click and then I'm going to create my first HTML file. I'm going to say new file and then I'm going to name it index.html. And then now in the index.html, I'm going to add my code. I'm going to add here this code. I'm going to say h1 and then I'm going to say this is Django app. Let me now save, and now it's time to learn how to return this to the user. So to return this, what we need to do is that we need to, instead here in the views.py, instead of returning HTTP response, we can return HTML. So for example, here in this article, instead of returning HTTP response, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to remove this completely, and then I'm going to say return, and then I'm going to say here return, and then I'm going to use a function called render. And then this function render takes 3 parameters. The first parameter is the request. The second parameter is the file that you want to return. So we want to return, remember, we want to return the index.html that's inside the blog, that's inside the templates. So what we need to do here is that we need to say blog and then /index.html. So we only pass here the name of this folder, but we don't say templates /blog. We just say blog and then the name of the file. And then finally here you can return whatever parameter you want. Maybe you want to return here the article ID. You can here say object and then article ID. If you want to return this article ID, you can here give it a value, a key, article ID. The article ID is the key, and then the value is the article ID. Finally, we need to import this render. So at the top here, make sure that you have this render. Make sure that you have imported this render. Finally, in the settings, in the app settings here, in the My Project settings, what we need to do is that we need to add this piece of code. This piece of code is very important. Here in the installed apps, we need to add this piece of code. We need to say blog.apps.blog config, and then comma. Don't forget to add this comma. So you need to add this piece of code. This is very important. This piece of code is gonna let Django know that we have this app in our project. Now, if I save everything and if I head on over to the browser, guess what? If I refresh, it's gonna return this is Django app. Let me now refresh one more time. And as you can see, it's gonna say this is Django app. So it returned this file. It returned the index.html. So this is how we can return an HTML file to users.